Good evening and welcome to Metro Focus. I'm Jack Ford. President Trump is headed to the Walter Reed Medical Center for his first physical examination since entering the White House. The visit comes as a growing number of critics have questioned his fitness for office, focusing specifically on his mental health. That comes in light of a damning book from Michael Wolff, which asserts that close advisors to the president believe that he is mentally unwell. Here's what the president had to say on the matter at Camp David last weekend.
I went to the best colleges, or college. I went to I had a situation where I was a very excellent student, came out, made billions and billions of dollars, became one of the top business people, went to television, and for 10 years was a tremendous success, as you probably have heard. Ran for president one time and won. And then I hear this guy that doesn't know me at all. By the way, did not interview me he said he interviewed me for 3 hours in the White House. It didn't exist, okay? It's in his imagination. And what I was heartened by, because I talk about fake news and the fake news media, was the fact that so many of the people that I talk about in terms of fake news actually came to the defense of this great administration and even myself, because they know the author and they know he's a fraud.
So, is the president, in fact, fit for office? And is it appropriate to be having that conversation in public? Joining us now to have that conversation, journalist Amy Holmes and author Ellis Henican. His latest book is aptly titled Trumpitude: The Secret Confessions of Donald's Brain. So it's always good to have the two of you here. I always find that I've learned something when I have a conversation to both of you also. Let's start off with a sense of historical perspective, right? This is out there, so it's such a focus of conversation now. Let's go back to say Richard Nixon. Mm-hmm. Have we seen any conversation such as this, focusing on a president's mental capacity?
In modern times, no. But the facts have not been like they are today, right? The one thing that we know is that he is the president, and we want to know everything about him. And I don't care whether it's his finances, his family, or yes, even his mental health, particularly when he keeps doing stuff that raises these questions.
Yeah. Are you surprised at all by the not just the nature, but the extent of the conversation?
Historically, actually, yes. We have seen these attacks, particularly on Republican presidents. We saw it on Ronald Reagan. I remember when George W. Bush was president, people would say he's a dry drunk. He had addiction issues that he hasn't really recovered from, and so his personality has been warped by this. We have seen these attacks in the past. What I'm concerned about is the psychiatric community using their status as psychiatrists to weaponize that and attack a political opponent. And I'm concerned about it for two reasons. There's a history of that, too. Look at the Soviet Union that used to diagnose people as crazy and then take them out of political life, public life, and even throw them in the loony bin. You ask, Fidel Castro. The second reason why I'm really concerned about this is when you have the psychiatric community trying to use their expertise for partisan purposes, it can be very discouraging for a lot of other people who actually want to see a therapist. You lose trust in the profession and the professionals who are there to hear your deepest secrets, your deepest emotional truth, and meanwhile, they're using partisan politics to attack people?
Let's talk about that, because when you talk about whether it's appropriate, certainly, as you mentioned, the President of the United States.
He's the president.
Is the president, and given the thousands of media platforms we have now, you can expect that conversation is going to take place. And you said we've had it in the past.
Exactly. Seems crazy.
But I do want to talk about the appropriateness of professionals stepping in on this. You guys are probably familiar with it. It's been referred to as the Goldwater Rule,
Mm-hmm.
American Psychological Association, back when Barry Goldwater was running for president. And one of the attacks upon him, the partisan attacks upon him, was, does he have the capacity to have his finger on the button? Sure. Remember, the suggestion was he'll blow us all up. Mutually assured destruction will take place if Barry Goldwater is president. And the American Psychological Association came out and said, rule for our folks, you shouldn't be publicly diagnosing somebody who you haven't examined, or you don't have firsthand examination.
And that's perfectly appropriate. It seems to me for any profession, including psychiatry, to regulate its own members, they should have whatever ethical and other professional rules that they think are appropriate. But what concerns me is when you take the tack that Amy is taking, which is essentially that we shouldn't be analyzing this stuff, that we shouldn't be having opinions about that.
That's not the tack I'm taking, not at all.
Because the reason that I know that you object in each of these cases, if anyone talks about Bush's psychology, let me make my point if I can. It seems to me that what the effect of that kind of argument is really is to silence what is a deeply important and, frankly, utterly appropriate conversation about, is this guy we elected president, does he have the emotional, the psychological, the mental, maybe even the physical capacity to do this job? Nothing
but
could be more important. But if you look,
and I understand what you're saying, and I understand what you said, but I took a look at that, and by the way, I'm an independent. Always have been.
We like that.
All right.
Yes.
I voted for Republicans. I voted for Democrats. That's what I am.
Myself.
So I'm not taking out a partisan position here. But I got to tell you, in reading up on this and reading some of the opinion pieces by people who are professionals, it seems to me, the ones I've seen fairly clear, that this person, starting off from the beginning, does not like Donald Trump.
Of course not. They're
So if you then, and that's fine, and there are plenty of people
like it,
and that's the genius of our society.
Absolutely.
You can vote no for somebody, you can even vote yes for somebody and still not like them. But I guess the concern is if you're putting an imprimatur of professionalism, of a diagnosis on that. Is that distorting somehow what the conversation should
Absolutely.
be?
And let me add to this. In preparation for this show, I talked with a gentleman who grew up in Soviet era Russia, and he said that's exactly what the Soviet government did. They would use state psychiatrists to say this person is unfit, mentally unfit, in order to take them out of political and public life. That is a very dangerous path to go down, and I think an unethical one. And I would also add, as someone who has actually sought out therapy in my life, I would never go to a psychiatrist who I know diagnoses a political enemy from afar to smear them politically. I think that's totally irresponsible, and it discourages people. I'll tell you, to go see a shrink takes a lot of courage, and it's really scary. And if you're not going to want to pick up the phone, if shrinks are telling you we hate our political enemies.
It's also not what's happening here.
That's exactly what's happening.
First
How do you mean?
I agree with it, and I said this right at the top. It's fine for the profession to set its own regulations and to make clear that we're not issuing some kind of official ruling about this guy. That said, if you silence all the people who have any expertise, all the people who have any expertise on the topic, then you just have the dumb people talking. So it seems to me, though, wouldn't it be better, Jack, if even people who have training, even people who have degrees, can stand up and say, listen, I'm not making a formal diagnosis of this guy. I've never treated him. There may be things that I don't know. However, his behavior in public and what we've seen gives me cause for alarm.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you another question. Come back to the appropriateness of this. I think I know what your answer is going to be, but let me ask anyway. It's the President of the United States. Now, some people support him, others don't. And that's the way things work here. But is it appropriate for us to be not just challenging, but condemning the President of the United States? I guess the better question is, should the office carry with it a little more respect? That even if we are individually questioned, should it become a national referendum?
No,
you understand what I'm saying?
And here's where Ellis is misunderstanding me. I'm not trying to silence people. If you think the president's tweets are crazy and it makes him sound crazy or seem crazy or he might be crazy, that's one thing for us as voters and fellow citizens and laymen to be able to discuss with one another. And maybe I don't like his public behavior. Maybe it concerns me. Maybe it worries me. What we're talking about are shrink psychiatrists from Yale University going to Washington, D.C., briefing Democratic congressmen and senators to say it is your patriotic duty to remove this man from office. And with our psychiatric knowledge, degrees, and expertise, we're here to tell you he's a dangerous individual who's Adolf Hitler in the making, and you should use every lever of power to get rid of him. That's what they're saying.
Let me jump on. Let me jump in.
Can we make one
real quick? Let me get one other.
Let me make the opposite argument, right? You're suggesting there's some kind of veil because he's the president. I would say exactly the opposite. There are a number of things that we expect our presidents to reveal that all the rest of us don't have to reveal. our health, for instance. Nobody wants to see
Bill
my
Clinton
health
never
care.
revealed his health
Our,
records.
excuse me, our taxes, for instance. Every modern president has revealed his tax returns, and the three of us have never put out our tax returns. So I would say that as president, he owes us more disclosure than normal
an
members of the
enhanced
public
responsibility
does.
rather than.
Absolutely.
All right,
So
let me take a look at.
So you think his
let me-
therapist should
hold on a
download
second.
files?
Let me yeah. And we should note, by the way, that the physical exam is a physical exam,
Right.
and we shouldn't anticipate anything coming out other than sort of physical, what the blood pressure is, cholesterol
Well,
levels.
don't you want to know that stuff?
Oh yeah, and I think that's
All
why
other presidents gave it
interesting
to
people
us.
should know
No, they
it's
didn't.
not a law. It's become a tradition.
Tradition.
But let me ask you this: politically speaking, can we envision 3 years down the road or 2 years down the road when the next presidential campaign gets cranked up? Can we envision that this issue is going to become a significant campaign issue?
Maybe some of Trump's opponents will try to raise it because it fires up their base. I don't think it's persuasive for the average voter to be sort of browbeaten into thinking because you support this person's crazy. So what is the inference there? You're crazy too. I don't think that that's fair. But in terms of medical records, as a matter of fact, not every president has released their medical records. Bill Clinton very famously did not.
Don't you want him to?
At this point, no. I mean,
Don't
who
you
cares
want
what Bill Clinton's medical
No,
records
when you're in
are,
office.
right?
Yeah, when you're in office,
no, actually,
wouldn't you
at the
like to
Tax
time-
know?
returns too.
Look, we know that FDR was in a wheelchair, which he did not reveal
When
to
you
the
wanted to
public.
know
Well,
that-
if you want to go back historically,
JFK, he had all sorts of health problems. which he didn't
Woodrow
reveal.
Wilson
He
had a
did not
stroke,
reveal.
and his wife was
Don't
running the
you think
government for
we
years,
should
and we didn't know that.
All of those things. I mean, are you defending those hidden secrets among
Yes,
people
I
who are
am,
the leader of our?
actually.
Well, we have very different views about that, clearly.
Do you think, and again, this is sort of looking down the road in terms of the political implications of this, do you think that the Donald Trump supporters, those who have said, look, I voted for him for president, and maybe I don't like a lot of parts of his personality, but he's still the person I wanted in that chair.
Sure.
Do you think they care about all
No,
this?
I don't think they care about anything. I think there's a 35% part of this nation who will support him. As he said, if he shot somebody on Fifth Avenue, they'd still be there. I don't think they're swayable.
Yeah.
Well, interestingly, at Rasmussen Reports, we found that President Obama and President Trump, at the same point in the first year of their presidency, had the same approval, disapproval. Obama came in with high expectations, high approval, high optimism, but the act of governing means you create enemies. So I think his approvals right now are like in the 40s. Does that matter? No, I think the judgments we make about our president are the decisions he makes.
And you wonder about 3 years from now when people are going in and to the booth, and I was going to say pulling the lever as if that's what you still do.
Yeah.
Because maybe some places you do still do it.
The
The
other
question is that going to be out there?
Jack, the other 65 are going to be shaking their heads and saying,
Yeah.
this guy's really our president?
Well, there'll be things for us to talk about. Amy Ellis,
Thank
it's
you.
always a
Good to see
pleasure
you.
to share
Thank
some
you,
thoughts and
Jack.
ideas with you.
All
Look
right.
forward to
Yeah.
seeing you back again real soon.
Thank you.